This is the White House. The US of A's president lives here. It has been the home to some very important people in very important suits making very important decisions that will probably make all of our lives more difficult at some point or another. It has been the home to this guy, or him, or this guy, and her. Oh wait, no, not her. And all these other ones too. And they all probably have had very important meetings about very important things, like the optimal temperature for the thermostat, or how to reset the Wi-Fi router, who gets the coffee, and how to make themselves more rich. I don't know, normal things I guess. It's all very official and above board, and all the decisions are made with thoughtful deliberation and probably a really, really nice pen. So you're probably wondering, why are we looking at the White House or talking about any of these people or this at all? Well, I'll tell you. Actually, I'll ask you, do you know what this place and all these people all have in common that most of us never really think about or even talk about? Go on, think about it. Did you think about it? If you guessed the shady underbelly, ding ding, that's right. If you peel back the curtain or just peek under the rug a little bit, shh, we gotta whisper or she'll hear us. Oh, who's that? There she is. This is the CIA. One of the many dark underbellies of this house. They are like that family member who shows up and makes everyone vaguely uncomfortable. The ones who sometimes cut a few corners, or pull some strings to get things done for the greater good, or so they say. They're the ones who go, whoops. Did I do that? With of course no one ever taking accountability or being punished at all for them. But we know what they did.
This is the worst.
A lot of countries in our real world have organizations like this. Britain has MI6, Germany has FIS or BND, which stands for, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. The point, however, much like our world, Star Trek has its very own version of these types of secret, not-so-secret groups. The Romulans have the Tal Shiar, the Cardassians have the Obsidian Order, and of course the Federation has its own official branch, Starfleet Intelligence. Everyone knows that these groups exist.
Every other great power has a unit like Section 31.
But when it comes to Section 31, they are pretty much the only one out of these groups that doesn't officially exist. At least, no one openly admits they do or tries to put a concrete end to them.
And as for Section 31, that's a little more complicated. Starfleet Command doesn't acknowledge its existence, but they don't deny it either.
The only series that openly admits they exist is Discovery.
Section 31.
Section 31.
Section 31. Section 31.
Section 31.
Section 31.
But we'll get into that later. So today, I want to discuss that exact group. I want to try and answer the question of, is Section 31 a necessary evil that the Federation ultimately needs? And before we begin, as always, I want to give a brief disclaimer. I'm not a Star Trek guru or canon expert, and I can't tell you every episode detail or who did what, when they did it, and how and why they did it. And I'm not an expert on the matter by any means, but I do enjoy Star Trek as a whole. So with that being said, please forgive me if I miss anything or mess up, as I'm sure I will. But if I do, or if you feel anything could have been added, let me know below in the comments, as I really do enjoy having those discussions and conversations with people. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into it. So to start this off, I want to go to the earliest version, at least timeline-wise, that I can think of, that we get to see Section 31. Not all Section 31 operations are entirely bad in nature. While the way they go about getting it done might not be the best, there are clear times that Section 31 did things to help other species to benefit Starfleet, like in Enterprise. We know that they were Section 31 because Harris brings up Article 14, Section 31.
Starfleet would never authorize that.
Reread the Charter, Article 14, Section 31.
In this episode, Section 31 sets up the kidnap of Dr. Phlox, where they hope that he can develop the cure for the current Klingon augment virus that has backfired on them. They hope that by helping the Klingons, it will stabilize their empire. To them, a stable empire is more beneficial than an unstable one. Side note, Marcus from this movie? Is in Enterprise as well. Now there is no Star Trek series that has as much Section 31 shenanigans compared to Discovery. Discovery virtually right out of the gate just grabs the ball and runs with it in terms of Section 31 existing. While I do think they slightly overdid it when it comes to Section 31, whereas the other series did it more cleverly. Is that a word? I think it's a word. Oh well, I'm using it. Whether you love or hate Discovery, we have to take a look at the matters surrounding Section 31 within the show to at least some extent. I personally have my own issues with Discovery, not because of the standard run-of-the-mill typical gripes with the show, but rather the storytelling itself for me was up and down. Say what you will about it, but some of the Section 31 ships were beautiful, and it shows that they are far above and beyond what is typically expected from the Federation at this point in time. In this regard, it seems Starfleet sort of view them as a critical component of intelligence services within the organization itself. They know that Section 31 is not above board, and they do things in the dark underbelly, but they still utilize them as a valuable resource whenever they can. And she makes a good point.
Nation building is never pretty. That is the unappetizing truth, and you know it.
The iteration of Section 31 in Discovery is kind of the complete opposite of the normal Section 31 we secretly, not so secretly know about in all the other Star Trek series. In Discovery, Section 31 basically becomes the biggest threat to all sentient life. So instead of doing things in the dark underbelly and removing the problem and doing things that benefit Starfleet and the Federation, they pretty much are the problem in Discovery, at least for the majority of Season 2. And yes, that could be solely blamed on the rogue control AI taking over. Now, look, I don't care to get into all the details and nitty-gritty of control and the how and the why it happened, but flat out, the problem was created because of Section 31. There is no way around that. So instead of being the background shady, shadowy group that we are used to, they almost had the entire galaxy wiped out, and that's solely on them. And it makes sense that after the control incident that Section 31 would sort of disappear into the background once again, becoming the shadowy figures in the night as we know them. Starfleet and the Federation would want no connection to a group that almost wiped out the entire galaxy. And in all honesty, I did enjoy the ending of that season. The ships and the space battle we got were pretty damn good. And as a side note, I'm not going to cover the Section 31 movie because frankly, I don't even know what that was. It was, and I think we all can agree, it was just not good. Which is a shame because I love Michelle Yeoh. In DS9, we had 3 episodes where Section 31 were mostly the main plot point. In Season 6, we had Inquisition. In Season 7, the second episode we had was this. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, so I'll just put some text here for you to word jumble it out. But the third episode from Season 7, called Extreme Measures, is the one I do want to talk about. In Extreme Measures, it's revealed that Section 31 is responsible for the disease that the Founders end up with. Section 31 had given Odo a disease with the intent that he will pass it on to the other Founders and completely wipe them out, or in other words, a mass genocide.
Section 31, what do they have to do with this?
We believe that they were responsible for infecting Odo in the first place. Evidently, Section 31 hoped that Odo would transmit the disease to the other Founders when he linked with them.
While I understand Cisco being against genocide, and I mean, who wouldn't, but in a wartime setting, the idea of completely wiping out your enemy is usually never quite completely off the table. In our own history, America dropped 2 nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that were cities mostly made up of civilians. And while absolutely horrendous, and I pray to whatever almighty power there is, if any, that it never ever happens again in our lifetimes, or ever for that matter, the phrase always comes back to me. All's fair in love and war.
Sometimes in war, the terrible choice is the only choice.
Which means, in certain situations, any method of achieving your objective is justifiable. Section 31 is the sort of group that will commit these horrendous acts so the Federation doesn't have to. Most times, the stuff that these organizations do will never even be made public. And while we get a rare glimpse into the sort of shady, dark, horrible things Section 31 does in this episode, most people never will. And while you can understand the logic behind Section 31 trying to eliminate a threat that equally wants to eliminate you, it makes sense that they would attempt to do something like this to end the war. And the Federation then could still bathe in the "we didn't do it" wink wink. It allows them to wash themselves and absolve themselves of any wrongdoing or guilt. But we know that they know that we know they damn well knew what Section 31 was up to. There's no way they didn't know. Everyone answers to someone, even Section 31. Now, I don't really want to go into too much about Lower Decks, but back to an earlier point, the main episode I want to bring up is that in Season 5, Episode 9, titled Fissure Quest, again, Section 31 isn't doing something overly shady. They are doing something for the greater good that affects everyone. Boimler's clone and a bunch of familiar faces are trying to stop the people responsible for causing the interdimensional fissures that have been disrupting the multiverse, albeit we don't entirely know the lengths of the methods they use to achieve this goal, since we only see what we see on screen. Oh, and we got this gem of a line that I didn't pick up until I wrote this.
Oh, what did you guys do with your Tuvix?
Originally as well, I was going to add Picard on this list, but in my opinion, aside from Vadic pretty much saying Section 31 tortured her during the Dominion War, which again, to an earlier point, we do know Section 31 was responsible for the disease that the Founders got. Raffi and Worf are working for the legitimate branch of Starfleet intelligence. Almost every country in the world has had their own history of what we would now view as morally and ethically extremely flawed. And yes, some still have not learned. Many are guilty of horrendous acts committed throughout their history as a country. Of course, it's easy to look back and see how messed up those things were. That's where the phrase, hindsight is 20/20 comes in. At the time of those things occurring, and in those moments during our history, you don't really think about the aftermath, you only think about the here and now. And probably a lot of them at that time didn't view what they were doing as bad or wrong. And with every country, even to this day, each one has their own, let's say, shady, not so legal methods of getting her done. And when I say freedom ain't free, I mean there's always a price to pay for safety. Someone or something operates as that shady figure in the background, doing what needs to be done to protect you and its citizens, whether that be legal or illegal. Truthfully, unless there's a major screw up, we will probably never know the extent to which our governments go to protect us. We will probably never know the amount of legal or illegal things they do that infringe on our rights as citizens under the guise of protection. In terms of security and keeping citizens safe, there will always be those who hide in the dark, shady room that sort of pull the strings to make sure whatever needs to get done gets done. Every country has their own version of these types of organizations, but yet they will never truly admit their involvement in whatever happens. It would be a rare sight to see if governments actually acknowledged all the shady stuff that they did, but that's the difference between the ones in the light and the ones in the dark. Plausible deniability. That is the key. There is no way these groups can operate or are allowed to operate without direct knowledge, funding, or approval from the ones they serve. They would be treated like a criminal organization or a foreign agent in that country, hunted down and stopped. Much like in our real world, we pretty much know that Starfleet helps, receives, or gives information, or in some capacity at least sanctions the actions of Section 31 to some extent or another.
Keep us informed.
There's no way a group of that nature with as many agents, ships, or means of covert operations strictly operates without the ones they serve knowing about their actions. That simply can't be true. Yes, they can hide in the shadows and dark underbelly, but someone, somewhere up the chain knows what they're doing, where they are, and why they're doing it. And we kinda know that from when Sloan tells Bashir that he works for the same people he does.
Why don't you tell me who you are? Who you work for?
Same people you work for, the Federation. Starfleet.
Sure, these groups can use illegal means of funding their operations rather than get funding from Starfleet or the Federation, but to say that they don't answer to anyone would be foolish. If they didn't answer to anyone, these groups would not have official names, uniforms, and would just be seen as another terrorist group with the Federation hot on their heels at every turn, rooting them out like the dirty weeds they would be. But they don't. They simply deny their existence or just look the other way. That's where plausible deniability comes into play. If something ever goes wrong, they can simply shrug off and deny any involvement without ever being proven otherwise. It basically gives them a free pass to do or order some pretty effed up things without ever being directly responsible or held accountable. No one can deny that their actions might be extremely morally or ethically questionable, because their actions definitely cross the line from time to time without a doubt. Fact is, sometimes the ends truly don't justify the means. Now, of course, that isn't to say that I don't think these types of groups deserve a place within the world, because ultimately, I think they do. As bad as that may or might sound, sometimes to achieve an objective, you're going to have to do some bad things that you may not ultimately want to do. And if you could pass that task off onto someone who essentially doesn't actually exist, well, problem solved. You can carry on pretending like you had no involvement and no one knows otherwise. It is sort of like an offloading of that guilt. You can just simply pass the buck to someone who will do it. Groups like Section 31 are not perfect. They never can and they never will be. They are extremely flawed, sometimes corrupt, and sometimes they're just murderous son bitches. But from that perspective, would you rather have an attack dog under your control or let it run rampant and free? Section 31 may not formally exist, but in a perfect world, as we see even in our world, groups like this will forever exist. And that's where ideals meet reality.
Life could be a dream if I could take you up in paradise up above.
In theory and on paper, the Federation as a whole is like the golden retriever of space exploration. High-minded ideals, diplomatic handshakes, warp drives fueled by pure unadulterated hope, and the smiles from everyone seeking peaceful resolution to complicated interspecies relationships and clashing ideals. It seems like a highly advanced, morally upstanding, ethically sound, and impeccable golden retriever. Loyal, friendly, always wagging their tail, and wants to be everyone's friend. But the actual reality is, the universe ain't all sunshine and rainbows and perfectly ironed uniforms. Sometimes, the mailman who's trying to deliver you intergalactic flyers you don't really want is actually a Borg cube, and making friends just isn't gonna cut it when they're trying to turn you into a glorified USB drive. Sometimes, your wishes of friendship and peace are gonna be met with opposition, hatred, anger, and a bloodbath. Fact is, some species don't want to be buddy-buddy. They just want to kill you. And no amount of Janeway giving them her sexy eyes, eye-rolling at them, or deleting their wives will change that.
Delete the wife.
So what do you do when a species is hell-bent on either erasing your whole race from existence, assimilating you into hard drive space, or just enjoys murdering things for the fun of it? That is where groups like Section 31 can come into play. A group who essentially their sole purpose is to operate outside of those set rules, the rest are all required to follow. Now you might be asking, well, if they're from the Federation or Starfleet, then what about the Prime Directive? What about Starfleet rules? What about that time Data wore this funky hat? All perfectly valid questions, but these types of groups simply don't care about any of that. They strictly live off the principle and ideals of doing what must be done for the greater good at whatever the cost. They take the needs of the many to the most extreme, and that includes their own lives if necessary. There's a statement that Tuvok says to Kes that I feel really connects the pieces on this sentiment and can be relative to this perspective.
Without the darkness, how would we recognize the light? To pretend it does not exist is to create an opportunity for it to escape.
And from that angle, you could rationalize that because of those types of groups existing, the glorified principles and ideals that all the rest get to uphold and spout can exist. Because of the dark, shady underbelly that allows them to exist by taking the actions necessary when the light simply cannot. The light can carry on living in this utopian idealism of peace, friendship, coexistence, and high-minded ideals of diplomatic cohesion that they can spread out and share amongst all other species and member planets. Whereas the darkness can do whatever it needs to protect the light. Think of it like two siblings. One is the younger, happy-go-lucky, always positive one, and the other, well, he's the older one you call when you need a problem dealt with. He is the one who kicks the crap out of whoever is bothering you. Section 31 doesn't try to be some high-minded principle organization like the rest of Starfleet or the Federation. They aren't trying to be. They know exactly who they are, what they are, and they're 100% okay with it. They have no problem being the ones who can pull the trigger without a second thought. They don't need the approval or praise from Starfleet and the Federation. They are not trying to get it. They view themselves as sort of the watchmen on the walls, ready to step in and do what needs to be done whenever, wherever, or however that may be. And just like in our world, we don't get to see all the shady stuff that happens behind the scenes so we can live our happy, peaceful lives, mostly carefree. These types of groups will always work in the shadows, mostly without anyone having any knowledge of their existence or the lengths they truly go to, and only a handful will ever encounter, interact, or come across something that they were involved in. And for the ones who do, it usually never ends well for those people, or in some cases, magically never seen again. One of the good things that Discovery did give us, in my opinion, was the confirmation that the higher-ups 100% are aware of, accept, and rely on groups like Section 31. They rely on them for things like critical intelligence, strategic intervention, and planning when it comes to threats. And like mentioned earlier, after the Control incident, you can sort of reason out why groups like Section 31 would be pushed further into the shadows and further into the darkness. Starfleet and the Federation wouldn't want to be known as associating with groups like that when they preach these high-minded ideals, and yet they'll still utilize Section 31 whenever they're needed. While Section 31 will never get the spotlight like the ones who stay above board, nor will they ever be officially sanctioned or applauded by Starfleet or the Federation for that matter, honestly, in my opinion, I see it as a safe bet to say, while not perfect, we can sort of see them as imperfectly perfect for what they are. They know they will always be officially seen as the bad guys or non-existent. Their actions will always be condemned or never officially recognized. They will never be thanked, and they will never be uplifted, celebrated, nor championed in any way. And they know that, and they're comfortable with it. They simply don't exist. And in that regard, when something doesn't officially exist, it can't officially be punished, so they never will be held accountable. In an odd way, there is a comfort in the idea of knowing that there will always be someone or something in the dark willing to make those tough decisions and sometimes brutal decisions for the safety and comfort of millions, working for the light to combat the equally as bad ones whose only wish is to destroy it, or you and everything you love. There is a sort of tranquility in knowing that. It's a bit off topic and it's not Star Trek, but I'm often drawn back to the NSA episode of South Park, where this gets said.
You want to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, but the brave can't be free if the land isn't home, and that land won't be home so long as folks out there want to take that American flag and shove it so far up your anus that you crap stars and stripes for a week.
As difficult as it is to hear, and to be brutally honest, without these groups existing, the ones who live in the light, in my opinion, I don't think can exist. There will always be bad people. There will always be those who don't want peace and friendship. Truth is, some people just want chaos, carnage, and destruction. If there was nothing to keep those things in check and stop them, we could all potentially be dead for things as simple as clashing ideals or principles, a difference in religious beliefs, or simply a difference in way of life. And we would all probably be right alongside them doing whatever we need to do to protect the ones we care about. The reality is, when idealism, understanding, equality, unity, and meaningful relationships is what you seek to attain, preach, and spread, you will always need groups like Section 31 to defend those values, because there will always be those completely opposite to those values. Groups like Section 31 are the ones who will take care of those who seek to ultimately do nothing but either destroy, harm, or eliminate everything you value in life. That is what makes them a necessary evil. They know exactly what they are, who they are, and they don't need to second guess, question, or think about what they are doing. They just do it. They're the ones who can cross that line into the unthinkable and do what needs to be done. Although we may never agree fully with their methods, in most cases they do serve the greater good. And at the end of the day, for the ones that take those actions and work in those types of groups, if their goal can be achieved for the greater good in their eyes, the ends will always justify the means. That will always be the case. And oddly, when kept within those bounds and working for the light in a weird and yet uncomfortable way, I am thankful for that. Well, that about wraps up this video, I think. First off, I want to say how incredibly thankful I am for the feedback, responses, and reception to the Janeway video from everyone. I had, and am still having, so many wonderful conversations with everyone about their opinions or takes on things about Voyager and Janeway as a whole. When I made that video, in all honesty, I was quite nervous going into it and releasing it. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, but I'm extremely grateful and absolutely astounded by how well it was received. Never, ever did I expect that. You're gonna hear me thanking you all every time because I cannot explain how wonderful this has all been to me. Truly, I can't. And lastly, to this giant thank you session, I just wanted to apologize to anyone if I missed your comment or I haven't responded to them yet. It has been extremely overwhelming to say the least, and I'm trying my best to keep up with every comment you guys leave. So if you feel I missed anything, want to add in anything, or have your own point you want to discuss about Section 31, please do let me know in the comments below. Well, I guess that's it for now. I have a lot of videos in the works from all sorts of series, but if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single video that gets released. And again, thank you all. I truly cannot say that enough.
Delete the wife.